Hi everyone, this is Professor E. Welcome to today's lecture. Today, we're going to be learning about classes and objects. So let's start by creating a new project. So make sure it's empty projects. So here I'm going to save it in a location, and then I created a folder called rectangle. Okay, and now the name of the project, I'm gonna call it rectangle class. So create, and then I will go to source files and create a new item, and then I'm gonna give it the same name, rectangle class. Okay, so as always, we start with the necessary files. So we have include iostream, and then using namespace std, then of course the main function, return 0. All right, so how do we create a class? Now first of all, what is the difference between class and object? A class, we're going to of course learn more about it, in the next chapters, but just to give you a very simple and easy definition of class is a template. Class is a blueprint, and then out of this template we create many objects. Okay, so class basically is just like a storage place where you put the most important information about specific topic. For example, I can create a class called students, and all the information I need for student class, I put it in here, like the name of the student, the ID, their phone number, contact information, their grade, their courses, everything in there. And then once I have that complete, then I can start using objects like specific students. Okay, let me give you an analogy that you can relate to. When you go to a place, if you want to rent, let's say an apartment, and you go to a complex and you are looking for one bedroom apartment, then they don't show you every single one bedroom they have. They show you only the master, only the template, and they will tell you, okay, look, all our one bedroom apartment, they look like this. It's the same, same way it is built. Okay, so by looking at that specific template, then you have a good idea about about the one bedroom apartment that you are trying to rent. So I think that's a good example. Now let's start with a simple example. I'm going to start by creating a class called rectangle. Okay, so you start class and then the name, and then you put the braces and make sure it ends with semicolon here. Now inside the class you need to have two parts. The first part most likely is going to be private. Private, that means it's not accessible outside the class. Okay, so if I ask you, can you draw a rectangle? Probably the first question you're going to ask me, what is the length, what is the width? So I need this information or attributes. I'm going to put length. I just choose integer, but feel free to choose a different data type, maybe float or double. And the same thing for width. Okay, so these are the information I need, or anybody needs, to create a rectangle or draw a rectangle. And then after that, I'm going to put public, and this is all the functions I need, all the different things that I can do to the rectangle, like maybe calculate perimeter, calculate area. All the other functions should be under public. Now before we start with the other function, there is something called constructor. Constructor is a type of function that has two purposes. The first purpose is I can use it to create objects. To create an object, you need a constructor, as you can see, as the name implies, construct. And the second purpose is it allows me to assign values, like this length, width. Now they don't have any values, so constructor will assign values to them. And I will give you an example later on. So the constructor has the same name as the class name. So if the class name is rectangle, the constructor has to be called the same thing, rectangle. And then you put automatically parentheses. If I don't put anything inside the parentheses, it becomes a default constructor. That means I'm assigning a random values, like default values, to my length and width. So let's assume that these values are 1. Okay, that means if I don't specify the length and the width of rectangle, then automatically it means they are both 1. Now what about if I don't want to assign the default values? So in this case, I need to get parameters. So I'm going to need length and W. So len is for the length. So I'm going to assign len to length and W to width. All right. So now this will make more sense if I go right here and I want to create an object. So if I put a rectangle and then let's say I want to create an object called pool. So if I put parentheses like this, it means what? It means I am using the constructor, the default constructor, which means by default they are 1, 1. But if I don't want to use the default constructor, that means I need to come up with 2 numbers, 8 and 10. So what does 8 mean? What does 10 mean? So in the constructor, see the first number, len. So this is 8. That means it's assigned to what? Length. So I know that 8 is the length. And the second number, which is W, is assigned to width. So I know that the width is 10. See? So this is the first object. Now I'm not done with the class yet. I'm just showing you what the constructor does. Now I can create another object, but this time let's call it frame, or let me call it, let's call it frame. Yeah, that's fine. Frame, and then if I put parentheses like this, that means automatically I'm assigning, the value of 1 to my length and width of the frame. Okay. Now I'm not done with this. Let's say I want to create a function called perimeter. So why did I put integer here? Because when you have length integer and the width integer, perimeter is most likely to be an integer. That's why I put int. But if you choose double, then here you have to choose double as well. And then I'm going to return using the formula, what is the perimeter? So of course, everybody knows that 2 times length plus 2 times width. So that's going to give me the perimeter. And then the area should be length return length times width. Okay? So as you can see now, I am done with a misspelled length. So I should put H in here. So as you can see right here, I am done, pretty much almost done with the class. That's how the class looks like. All the classes should look the same with very small differences. They have the same components. They have the variables or the attributes. Most of the time they are private. And then under public, we have the constructor and the rest of the functions. So this is basically a complete class. Now let's print some information here. Let's say I want to know what is the length of the pool. So I'm going to put the length of the pool is, and then I need to mention the name of the object, which is pool, this one right here. And then I'm going to put dot and then put length. But the problem here is underlined. That means there's a problem here. What is the problem? See, it says inaccessible. Why? Because it is a private. So which means I cannot access length from inside the main function. Why? Because it was declared initially as private. The same thing for width. So the only way I can access it if I can have a function that is public that allows me to access these two information. We call them accessor functions. So accessor, as the name implies, it allows you to access this information. So I'm going to put int get length, and then I'm going to return it. Return length. See that? So now this one is accessible. So if I go down and then I replace length with get length, see that? Now the program has no problem with that. See? It's not underlined. So if I run the program, you're going to see it's going to show the length, as you can see, of the pool is 8. Okay? That's cool. Now let me print the perimeter. So let me make sure I use end line here. So this way we have it in a separate line, end line. And then I will print the perimeter and the area for the pool. So the perimeter of the pool is, again, you always start with the object, because what about if I have 2, 3, 4, 5 objects? The program does not know which object is making the call. If somebody calls, what's the first question you ask? Who is calling? And then you can talk to them based on who the person is. Okay? You don't just answer without knowing who is calling. So it's here the same thing. So I'm going to put here perimeter. So here we don't have to worry about this. Why? Because it is public. So again, perimeter is let's see here, perimeter. So the same thing, I'm going to put end line, and then I can add also the area. The area of the pool is, and then again the object pool, and then you call the function area. So now if I run the program, you're going to see all this information in here. Okay, the length of the pool is 8, the perimeter 36, and the area multiplying 8 times 10, so that makes sense. Okay.